Captain Lee Dae-ho stared at the main screen of his ship. The stars looked normal, but his instruments told a different story. Something big was happening in the space ahead of them. Very big. "Sir, I'm getting strange readings," said his navigator, Lieutenant Park Bo-ra. She was young but good at her job. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls. "There are ships out there. Lots of them." Lee Dae-ho nodded. He had been captain of the Hanbok's Dream for 5 years. In that time, he had seen many strange things in space. But he had never seen anything like this. The year was 2387. Humans had been traveling between stars for almost a century. They had built colonies on 12 different worlds. Lee Dae-ho's job was to explore new areas of space and look for places where humans could live. "How many ships?" he asked. "I count at least 300, sir. Maybe more. They're fighting each other." Lee Dae-ho walked to the front of the bridge. Through the big window he could see flashes of light in the distance. The lights were different colors: red, blue, and green. Each flash meant someone was shooting weapons. "Any idea who they are?" he asked Dr. Park So-jin. She was the ship's science officer and expert on alien life. She was also the smartest person Lee Dae-ho had ever met. Dr. Park So-jin looked at her readings. "3 different groups, sir. Their technology is very advanced, much more advanced than ours." She paused. "Sir, they're not just fighting. They're destroying entire asteroids with single shots. The energy they're using could destroy a planet." Lee Dae-ho felt cold. If these aliens were this powerful, what would happen if they noticed his small human ship? "Should we turn around, sir?" asked Commander Kim Tae-woo. He was the ship's military advisor. Kim Tae-woo always thought about safety first. "No," said Lee Dae-ho. "We need to know who they are. If they're this close to human space, we need to understand them." He turned to the communications officer. "Send a message. Tell them we're peaceful explorers from Earth. Ask if they need help." The communications officer, Ensign Yoon Mi-young, looked nervous. "Sir, what if they think we're enemies?" "Then we find out how fast this ship can run," Lee Dae-ho said with a small smile. Yoon Mi-young sent the message. For 10 minutes nothing happened. The alien ships kept fighting. Then suddenly, everything changed. All the lights stopped flashing. The 3 groups of ships moved away from each other. They formed defensive lines like they were protecting themselves from something scary. "Sir," said Park Bo-ra, "they're scanning us. All 3 groups." "Are their weapons pointed at us?" asked Kim Tae-woo. Dr. Park So-jin checked her instruments. "No, sir, but they're sending out signals, lots of signals. It's like they're calling for help." "Help from who?" Lee Dae-ho asked. Before anyone could answer, the communications board lit up. All 3 groups of alien ships were trying to talk to them at the same time. "Put them through," said Lee Dae-ho. "All 3 groups. Let's hear what they have to say." The main screen split into 3 parts. On each part, a different alien appeared. They looked very different from each other, and very different from humans. The first alien was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. When it spoke, its voice was high and musical. "Human ship, this is Chancellor Velthar of the Arconian Empire. We must speak with your leaders immediately. This is urgent." The second alien looked like it was made of living rock. Its voice was deep and slow. "Human vessel, I am War Leader Kiksmal of the Hegemony Collective. Your presence here has created a crisis. We need to meet now." The third alien was the strangest of all. It seemed to be made of dark energy, like a shadow with eyes. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. "Humans of Earth, I am Nixara of the Void Syndicate. What you call coincidence, we call disaster. We must gather." Lee Dae-ho looked at his crew. They all looked as confused as he felt. "This is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the Earth ship Hanbok's Dream. Why were you fighting? And why did you stop when we arrived?" The 3 aliens looked at each other across the screen. Chancellor Velthar spoke first. "Captain, we were not fighting each other. We were testing weapons for a war that may never come." "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Park So-jin. War Leader Kiksmal answered. Doctor, your species has been expanding across the stars for many years. We have been watching you. We did not interfere because of the law. What law? Lee Dae-ho asked. Nixara's shadow form moved closer to the camera. The law that protects your kind, human. The law that makes it death to harm any human. The law that even thinking about hurting humans brings punishment. Dr. Park So-jin stepped forward. That's impossible. We've never met any of your species. Before today, how could there be a law about humans? Chancellor Velthar's forearms moved in what might have been a gesture of frustration. The law is older than our civilizations, human. It was written before any of us reached the stars. It is built into the fabric of space itself. But why? Asked Lee Dae-ho. We're not special. We're just explorers. The three aliens exchanged looks again. War Leader Kicksmall spoke slowly. Captain, your species is listed in the Cosmic Code as a protected species, Class Alpha, the highest level of protection in known space. Protected by who? Kim Tae-woo asked. By the Tribunal, said Nixara. The ancient judges who rule the galaxy. They have made it impossible for anyone to harm humans without facing complete destruction. Lee Dae-ho felt dizzy. You're saying there are galactic judges, and they protect humans? Yes, said Chancellor Velthar. And because of this protection, any world that humans visit becomes protected too. Any species that makes friends with humans becomes protected. Any trade route that humans use becomes protected. Dr. Park So-jin was writing notes as fast as she could. This is incredible. But why are you telling us this? War Leader Kicksmall's rock-like face showed what might have been fear. Because your protection is expanding, human. Every day your people explore new worlds. Every day more space comes under the protection law. Soon there will be nowhere in the galaxy where the old powers can operate freely. Is that why you were testing weapons? Lee Dae-ho asked. We were testing weapons for defense, said Nixara. Not against humans. That is impossible. But against the changes your protection brings. Trade wars, resource conflicts, political upheaval. Chancellor Velthar leaned forward. Captain, we need your species to understand what is happening. The protection that shields you is changing everything. Wars that have lasted for centuries are ending because they cannot continue in human space. Empires that have ruled for millennia are crumbling because they cannot expand into protected areas. But that sounds like a good thing, said Dr. Park So-jin. No more wars, no more violence. Perhaps, said War Leader Kicksmall, but change brings chaos, and chaos brings suffering even when the change is good. Lee Dae-ho thought for a moment. His simple exploration mission had become something much bigger. What do you want from us? We want you to come with us to the tribunal, said Chancellor Velthar. We want you to learn about the law that protects you. We want you to understand the responsibility that comes with this protection. And if we refuse? Asked Kim Tae-woo. Nixara's shadow form rippled. Then the galaxy will change around you and you will never understand why. Powers will rise and fall, species will live or die, and humans will remain protected and ignorant while the cosmos reshapes itself. Dr. Park So-jin looked at Lee Dae-ho. Sir, we have to learn more about this. If what they're saying is true, it affects all of humanity. Lee Dae-ho nodded slowly. Very well. We'll come with you to this tribunal. But we want guarantees of safe passage. All three aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Captain, said Chancellor Velthar, you are the safest beings in the universe. The tribunal's law makes sure of that. As the alien ships prepared to escort the Hanbok stream to the tribunal, Lee Dae-ho wondered what they would find there. He had started the day as an explorer looking for new worlds. Now he was apparently a member of a protected species traveling to meet galactic judges he had never heard of. He looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were also excited. They were about to learn something that would change everything. Humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. Set course for wherever they're taking us, he told Park Bora. Let's go meet these cosmic judges. The Hanbok's dream turned and followed the alien fleet toward the center of the galaxy. carrying its human crew toward a destiny they could never have imagined. The journey to the tribunal took 3 days. During that time, Ambassador Choi Hye-rim arrived on the Hanbok's Dream in her own ship. She was Earth's top diplomat and had dealt with first-contact situations before. But she had never dealt with anything like this. "So let me understand this correctly," she said to Captain Lee Dae-ho. "These aliens say there's a galactic government that protects humans and we never knew about it?" Lee Dae-ho nodded. "That's what they claim, and they seemed genuinely afraid of what might happen if they accidentally hurt us." Dr. Park So-jin was studying all the data they had collected. "Ambassador, I've been analyzing their technology. These 3 species are incredibly advanced. They could easily destroy our entire solar system if they wanted to, but they're treating us like we're made of glass." Commander Kim Tae-woo was less impressed. "It could be a trap. Maybe they want us to believe we're protected, so we'll let our guard down." "I don't think so," said Ambassador Choi Hye-rim. "I've been watching their behavior. They're not acting like predators, they're acting like they're scared of us." Through the ship's windows, they could see their destination growing larger. It didn't look like a planet or a space station. It looked like a crystal the size of a moon, floating in empty space. Light poured out of it in all directions, making rainbow patterns across the hull of their ship. "That's the tribunal," said Chancellor Velthar over the communication system. "It exists in its own pocket of space, connected to the rest of the universe through ancient gateways. What you see is only a small part of it." "How small?" asked Dr. Park So-jin. "The part you can see with your eyes is about 1% of the actual structure," said War Leader Kicksmall. "The rest exists in dimensions your people have not yet discovered." As they got closer, the crystal became even more amazing. They could see that it wasn't solid. It was made of millions of smaller pieces, all connected by bridges of light. Ships from hundreds of different species were docked at various points around it. "How long has this place existed?" asked Ambassador Choi Hye-rim. "No one knows," said Nixara. "It was here when the first species reached the stars. It will be here when the last star dies." Their ships docked at a platform that seemed to grow out of the crystal to meet them. As they walked out of their ship, they felt the artificial gravity and breathed the artificial atmosphere. Somehow it was perfectly adjusted for humans. "How does it know what we need to survive?" asked Dr. Park So-jin. "The tribunal knows everything about every species," said Chancellor Velthar. "It has been watching and learning for millions of years." They were met by a creature that looked like a walking tree made of silver. It spoke in perfect English. "Welcome, humans of Earth. I am Torvek, Chief Justice of the Cosmic Tribunal. We have been expecting you." Ambassador Choi Hye-rim stepped forward. "Chief Justice, we're honored to meet you, but we don't understand why we're here." "You are here because your species has reached a point where you must understand the law that governs your existence," said Torvek. "Come, let me show you something." He led them through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some walked on legs, some floated through the air, and some moved in ways that didn't make sense to human eyes. But all of them moved carefully, around the human delegation, keeping their distance. "They're afraid of us," whispered Commander Kim Tae-woo. "Not afraid," said Torvek, who had heard him. "Respectful. They know the law." They entered a vast chamber with a ceiling that seemed to stretch into infinity. In the center was a pillar of light that reached from the floor to as high as they could see. Images moved within the light, pictures of planets, stars, and civilizations. "This is the Chronicle," said Torvek. "It contains the history of the galaxy and the laws that govern it. Let me show you why humans are protected." The images in the light changed. They saw a galaxy full of life but different from the current galaxy. The civilizations were more advanced, their cities covered entire worlds, and their ships were the size of moons. "This was the galaxy long ago," said Torvek. "The first civilization had spread across every star. They had mastered time and space. They thought they were gods. The images showed the first civilization's great cities and mighty fleets. Then something began to change. Dark areas appeared in the galaxy, places where stars went out, and space itself seemed to die. They created something called the Void Plague, said Torvik. It was supposed to be the ultimate weapon, something that would make them invincible. Instead, it began to consume reality itself. The images showed the first civilization desperately fighting against their own creation. Entire star systems vanished as the Void Plague spread. Billions died as the darkness consumed everything it touched. Most of the first civilization died, said Torvik, but some of them managed to evolve beyond physical form. They became what you see before you now, the judges of the tribunal. We have spent millions of years making sure that what happened to the first civilization never happens again. Dr. Park So-jin was taking notes as fast as she could. But what does this have to do with humans? The images in the chronicle changed again. Now they showed human history, the development of agriculture, the rise of cities, the Industrial Revolution, the first steps into space. Your species shows the same patterns as the first civilization, said Torvik. The same curiosity, the same drive to explore and grow, the same potential to transcend your physical limitations, but also the same potential to create something that could destroy everything. So you protect us to prevent us from becoming like them? Asked Ambassador Choi Hirim. We protect you to help you become better than them, said Torvik. The protection law is not just about keeping you safe. It is about preparing you for something greater. Commander Kim Tae-woo looked suspicious. Preparing us for what? The images showed the current galaxy. Thousands of species, countless worlds, vast civilizations. But there were dark areas too, places where the ancient Void Plague still lingered, held back by the tribunal's power. The Void Plague is not gone, said Torvik. It sleeps, waiting for its chance to return. When it wakes, only a species with the right qualities can stop it, a species that combines the power of the first civilization with the wisdom to use that power correctly. And you think humans are that species? Asked Dr. Park So-jin. We hope you are, said Torvik. The protection law gives you time to grow and learn, without the pressure of galactic politics. It allows you to develop your own path, while staying safe from those who might corrupt or destroy you. Ambassador Choi Hirim felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What if we don't want this responsibility? What if we just want to live our lives in peace? Torvik's tree-like form rustled, which might have been the equivalent of a smile. That is another reason why we chose your species. You asked that question, the first civilization never did. The images in the chronicle showed more recent events. Human expansion into space, the establishment of colonies, the peaceful first contacts with other species. Your protection affects more than just humans, said Torvik. Any species that allies with you gains protection too. Any world where humans live becomes protected. Trade routes, space stations, even asteroids that humans have visited become covered by the law. That explains what the 3 alien leaders told us, said Captain Lee Dae-ho. Our expansion is changing their political situation. Exactly, said Torvik. The galaxy is reorganizing itself around your protected zones. Wars are ending because they cannot be fought near human space. Trade is shifting because protected routes are safer. Entire empires are changing their policies to avoid conflict with the protection law. Dr. Park So-jin looked up from her notes. How does the law actually work? What happens if someone tries to hurt a human? Torvik gestured to the chronicle. The images showed a species of aggressive aliens attacking a human colony. The moment their weapons fired on human targets, their entire fleet simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, just gone, as if they had never been there at all. The law is enforced automatically, said Torvik. It is built into the structure of space and time itself. Anyone who harms a human with malicious intent ceases to exist. Their entire species ceases to exist. Their homeworld becomes uninhabitable. Their history is erased from most records. Commander Kim Tae-woo whistled softly. That's harsh. It is absolute, said Torvik. 3 species have tested the law since humans began traveling between stars. None of them exist anymore. Most people have forgotten they ever existed at all. Ambassador Choi Hirim felt sick. You're telling us that entire civilizations have been wiped out because of us? Because of their own choices, said Torvek firmly. The law is known throughout the galaxy. Every species receives warning when a protected species appears in their area. Those who chose to ignore the warnings chose their own fate. The chamber fell silent as the humans absorbed this information. They were safe, protected by a law so powerful that it could erase entire species from existence. But that protection came with knowledge that was almost too much to bear. What happens now? Asked Captain Lee Daeho finally. Now you choose, said Torvek. Accept the protection and the responsibility that comes with it, or renounce it and face the galaxy on your own terms. 6 months had passed since humanity learned about their protection under galactic law. Ambassador Choi Hee-rim had accepted the responsibility on behalf of all humans, and the galaxy had begun to change in ways no one expected. Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at a sight that would have been impossible just a year ago. Hundreds of ships filled the space around Earth's main space station. But these weren't human ships. They were alien vessels, carrying refugees from across the galaxy. Sir, we have another group requesting asylum, said his communications officer, Lieutenant Song Da-yoon. 50 ships from the Keltar system. They say their government is trying to kill them for their religious beliefs. Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan sighed. Guide them to Processing Station 7. Make sure they understand the rules about weapons and technology sharing. This had become the new normal. Word had spread throughout the galaxy that human space was safe. Any being who could reach human territory became protected under the same law that protected humans. Refugees, dissidents, and persecuted minorities were streaming toward human colonies from every direction. Admiral, said Commander Park Min-ho, we're running out of space. The refugee camps on Mars are at triple capacity. The orbital stations around Jupiter are overcrowded, and we're getting reports of fighting breaking out between different refugee groups. Any casualties? Asked Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan. No, sir. The protection field stops any violence before it can cause real harm. But people are frustrated. They came here for safety, but now they're trapped in crowded camps with no real future. Dr. Park So-jin had been studying this problem for weeks. She worked now as Earth's chief advisor on alien affairs. Her office was in the same building where Ambassador Choi Hee-rim made policy decisions that affected billions of beings. The protection law is more complex than we originally thought, she explained to a meeting of Earth's leadership. It doesn't just protect individual humans. It protects human civilization, human interests, and human allies. But the definition of human allies keeps expanding. How so? Asked Ambassador Choi Hee-rim. Any being that helps a human becomes protected. Any being that trades with humans becomes protected. Any being that even speaks kindly about humans in public becomes protected. Dr. Park So-jin pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy. Large areas were now colored blue, indicating protected zones. Look at this, she continued. 6 months ago, protected space was just our 12 colony systems. Now it covers nearly a quarter of the galaxy. Every trade route we use, every diplomatic contact we make, every scientific collaboration we engage in extends the protection. General Won Kyung-min, Earth's military leader, looked worried. What about the species that aren't protected? What are they doing? Commander Kim Tae-woo had been monitoring galactic politics since their return from the tribunal. They're adapting, but not always in good ways. The Hegemony Collective has stopped expanding because they can't conquer protected worlds, but instead of becoming peaceful, they're becoming more violent toward unprotected species. Explain, said Ambassador Choi Hee-rim. They can't attack us or our allies, so they're taking out their frustration on species that have no connection to humans. Slavery is increasing in unprotected space. Wars are becoming more brutal because the fighters know they're beyond the reach of the protection law. Dr. Park So-jin nodded grimly. We've also discovered something else. The protection doesn't just prevent violence against humans, it actively intervenes to help us. When human traders are negotiating deals, the other side finds themselves more willing to accept human terms. When human diplomats are speaking, their words carry more weight. When human scientists are conducting research, they make discoveries faster than should be statistically possible. Are you saying the law is cheating for us? Asked General Won Kyung-min. I'm saying the law is designed to help protected species succeed, said Dr. Park So-jin. But that success is changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Human companies are dominating interstellar trade. Human ideas are spreading faster than local cultures can adapt. Human technology is advancing so quickly that we're starting to outpace civilizations that are thousands of years older than us. Ambassador Choi Hai-rim felt the weight of responsibility growing heavier. What do the other species think about this? They're scared, said Commander Kim Tae-woo. Not of us directly. They can't be because of the law. But they're scared of being left behind. Some species are trying to become our allies just to get protection. Others are withdrawing from galactic civilization entirely. Captain Lee Dae-ho had been quiet during most of the meeting. He was still exploring space, but now his missions were different. Instead of looking for new worlds to colonize, he was mediating disputes between species who couldn't fight each other because of the protection law. I was at the Rigel system last week, he said. 2 species have been enemies for 300 years. Now they can't fight because both sides have trade agreements with human colonies. They're just sitting there staring at each other across space, not knowing what to do with themselves. That doesn't sound terrible, said Dr. Park So-jin. It's not, said Captain Lee Dae-ho. But it's not natural either. They have centuries of legitimate grievances against each other. The protection law is forcing them to live in peace, but it's not solving their underlying problems. It's just freezing the conflict. Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan brought up another concern. We're also seeing changes in human behavior. Our people are becoming more confident, more willing to take risks. They know they're protected, so they're pushing boundaries that they would never have crossed before. Is that bad? Asked Ambassador Choi Hee-rim. Maybe, said Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan. Yesterday, a group of human teenagers took a recreational spacecraft into hegemony space just to see what would happen. They came back safely, of course. The hegemony ships couldn't touch them, but they disrupted a military exercise and nearly caused a diplomatic incident. Commander Kim Tae-woo leaned forward. I think we need to consider using our protection more actively. Everyone turned to look at him. What do you mean? Asked Ambassador Choi Hai-rim. Think about it, said Commander Kim Tae-woo. We can't be harmed. That makes us the ultimate peacekeepers. If 2 species are fighting, we can literally stand between them. They can't shoot through us to hit each other. Dr. Park So-jin looked thoughtful. That's actually brilliant. We could end wars just by being present. But do we have the right to do that? Asked Captain Lee Dae-ho. Just because we can stop a war doesn't mean we should. What if both sides want to fight? What if innocent people are dying while they fight? Countered Commander Kim Tae-woo. We have power. Don't we have a responsibility to use it? General Won Kyung-min was practical. How would it work? We can't station human peacekeepers in every conflict zone in the galaxy. We don't need to, said Commander Kim Tae-woo. We just need to be strategic. Focus on the worst conflicts first. Use our protection to create safe zones where civilians can escape. Force negotiations by making it impossible for either side to achieve military victory. Ambassador Choi Hye-rim was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Park, what does your research tell us about the long-term effects of this approach? I don't know, admitted Dr. Park So-jin. We're in uncharted territory. No species has ever had this kind of protection before. We're learning as we go. What does the tribunal say? Chief Justice Torvik told me that every protected species must find their own path, said Dr. Park So-jin. The law gives us power, but how we use that power is up to us. Just then, Lieutenant Song Da-eun interrupted the meeting with an urgent communication. Sirs, we're receiving an emergency signal from the Kepler system. The Arconian Empire has declared war on the mining colonies there. Everyone looked confused. But the mining colonies are run by our allies, said Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan. They should be protected. That's the problem, sir, said Lieutenant Song Da-eun. The Arconians are claiming that the colonies were established before the alliance was formalized. They say the protection law doesn't apply to relationships that existed before humans knew about the law. Commander Kim Tae-woo stood up. They're testing the law. They want to see if they can find loopholes. If they're right, said Dr. Park Seo-jin, it could set a precedent. Other species might look for ways to attack our allies by claiming technicalities. Ambassador Choi Hee-rim made a decision. Admiral Yoon, prepare a fleet. Captain Lee, I want you to lead the diplomatic mission. Commander Kim, prepare peacekeeping protocols. We're going to Kepler to resolve this crisis. And if the Arconians won't back down? Asked General Won Kyung-min. Then we'll find out exactly how far our protection extends, said Ambassador Choi Hee-rim. And we'll learn whether we're ready to use our invincibility to protect others. As the meeting broke up and everyone hurried to prepare for the crisis, in the Kepler system, none of them noticed the new readings on Dr. Park Seo-jin's sensors. Deep in space, something ancient was stirring. Something that had been sleeping for millions of years was beginning to wake up. The test of the protection law in the Kepler system would be important, but it would not be the greatest challenge humanity would face. That challenge was still coming, traveling toward the galaxy from the dark space between the stars. The Kepler system was beautiful and deadly at the same time. 3 suns lit up the space around the mining colonies, creating brilliant colors across the hulls of the hundreds of ships that had gathered there. But these ships weren't there for the view. They were there for war. Captain Lee Dae-ho watched from the bridge of his ship as the Arconian fleet maintained its position around the mining colonies. Chancellor Velthar's forces hadn't attacked yet, but their weapons were charged and ready. The miners and their families were trapped on the surface, unable to evacuate while hostile ships controlled the space above them. Any word from the colonists? Asked Dr. Park Seo-jin. She had come along to study how the protection law worked in complex situations. They're scared but safe for now, said Communications Officer Yoon Mi-young. The Arconians haven't made any hostile moves toward the surface. They're waiting to see what we do. Commander Kim Tae-woo was studying the tactical situation. I count 200 Arconian ships, all modern, all heavily armed. If they weren't worried about the protection law, they could destroy the colonies in minutes. But they are worried about it, said Captain Lee Dae-ho. The question is whether their legal theory will hold up. If the colonies were established before our alliance was formalized, does the protection law apply to them? Dr. Park Seo-jin was running calculations on her computer. I've been analyzing the legal precedents that Chief Justice Torvek showed us. The protection law is supposed to be comprehensive, covering all human allies regardless of when the alliance began. But the Arconians might be hoping that the automatic enforcement system won't activate if there's any legal ambiguity. Only one way to find out, said Captain Lee Dae-ho. Take us into the system. As the human fleet moved toward Kepler, every sensor in the area focused on them. The Arconian ships tracked their movement but didn't change position. On the colonies below, families watched the sky and hoped that their human allies could save them. Captain, said Yoon Mi-young, Chancellor Velthar wants to speak with you. The main screen activated, showing the tall, blue-skinned Arconian leader. His forearms were folded in what might have been a gesture of respect or defiance. Captain Lee Dae-ho, said Chancellor Velthar, you arrive at an unfortunate time. We are conducting a legal military operation against colonies that were established through fraud and theft. Chancellor, replied Captain Lee Dae-ho, those colonies are under the protection of Earth. Any attack on them would violate galactic law. Would it? Asked Chancellor Velthar. The colonies were built on worlds that belonged to the Arconian Empire. The mining rights were stolen from us 50 years ago, long before humans knew about the protection law. We are simply reclaiming what was always ours. Dr. Park Seo-jin whispered to Captain Lee Dae-ho. He might be right about the timeline, but that shouldn't matter if the protection law is truly comprehensive. Chancellor, said Captain Lee Dae-ho, I suggest we call the tribunal to settle this dispute. They can determine the legal status of the colonies. That would take months, said Chancellor Velthar. My people have been patient for 50 years. We will not wait any longer. The communication ended, leaving the human fleet in an uncomfortable position. They were close enough to the colonies to provide protection, but far enough away that the Arconians could still claim they weren't directly threatening humans. Sir, said Commander Kim Tae-woo, I recommend we move our ships between the Arconian fleet and the colonies. If they want to attack the surface, they'll have to go through us. And if the protection law doesn't apply? Asked Captain Lee Dae-ho. Then we find out how good human technology is compared to Arconian weapons, said Kim Tae-woo grimly. Captain Lee Dae-ho made his decision. All ships move to defensive positions around the colonies. If the Arconians want to attack our allies, they'll have to explain to the tribunal why they destroyed a human fleet first. The human ships moved into position, creating a barrier between the Arconian fleet and the mining colonies. It was a bold move, but also a risky one. If the protection law had any loopholes, they were about to discover them the hard way. For several hours, both fleets stared at each other across space. Neither side wanted to make the first move because neither side was completely sure what would happen when they did. Then Dr. Park So-jin made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain," she said, "I'm detecting something strange. There are energy readings coming from outside the system. Something big is approaching." "Arconian reinforcements?" asked Commander Kim Tae-woo. "No, sir. The energy signature is completely different. It's unlike anything in our databases." Captain Lee Dae-ho was about to ask for more details when every sensor on every ship in the system began screaming warnings. Space itself seemed to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. And then, at the edge of the system, reality began to tear apart. "What is that?" whispered Yoon Mi-young. Through the tear in space, something emerged that made everyone forget about their military standoff. It was dark, darker than empty space, and it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As it moved, stars behind it simply disappeared, not destroyed but erased from existence. "Sir," said Dr. Park So-jin, her voice shaking, "I think that's the Void Plague." Chancellor Velthar appeared on the communication screen again, but his arrogant confidence was gone. "Human Captain, we must work together. The ancient enemy has returned. How do we fight it?" asked Captain Lee Dae-ho. "You cannot fight it," said Chancellor Velthar. "You can only survive it, and survival requires unity." The dark thing at the edge of the system was growing larger, consuming asteroids and small moons as it advanced. Where it passed, space became empty in a way that was different from normal emptiness. It wasn't just the absence of matter. It was the absence of possibility itself. "All ships," broadcast Captain Lee Dae-ho. "This is no longer about human and Arconian disputes. We're facing something that threatens everyone. I'm proposing a temporary alliance." "Agreed," said Chancellor Velthar immediately. "Humans and Arconians will stand together." Dr. Park So-jin was frantically analyzing the approaching darkness. "Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. The Void Plague is avoiding our ships. Not attacking them, just flowing around them." "The protection law?" asked Commander Kim Tae-woo. "Maybe, but I don't think it's that simple." Dr. Park So-jin pulled up readings from when they first entered the system. "Look at this. The energy field around our ships isn't just defensive. It's actively pushing back against the void effect." "What does that mean?" "I think human consciousness itself generates some kind of field that stabilizes reality," said Dr. Park So-jin. "That's why we're protected. Not because of an arbitrary law, but because we have a natural ability to resist the Void Plague." The implications hit everyone at the same time. "You're saying humans are immune to the thing that destroyed the first civilization?" asked Captain Lee Dae-ho. "Not immune," said Dr. Park So-jin, "but resistant, and our resistance can protect others if they stay close enough to us." Chancellor Velthar's image flickered as the void effect interfered with communications. "Human Captain, if what your scientist says is true, then your people are more important than any of us realized." "Important how?" "You may be the galaxy's only defense against the return of the Void Plague." The dark presence had consumed half the system now. The mining colonies were directly in its path, but the human ships formed a bubble of stable space around them. Inside that bubble, reality remained normal. Outside it, the universe was being systematically erased. "Sir," said Commander Kim Tae-woo, "we're getting reports from across the galaxy. The Void Plague isn't just here. It's appearing everywhere, emerging from deep space at dozens of locations. Can we stop it? Dr. Park So-jin shook her head. I don't think we can stop it, but I think we can contain it. Every human ship, every human colony, every place where humans live creates a zone where the plague can't fully take hold. So we become living shields against cosmic destruction? We become anchors, said Dr. Park So-jin. Points of stability, in a reality that's trying to collapse back into nothingness. Captain Lee Dae-ho looked at his crew, then at the image of Chancellor Velthar on the screen. Chancellor, I think our dispute about mining rights just became irrelevant. Agreed, Captain. The question now is whether your people are willing to accept the responsibility that comes with your unique nature. What responsibility? To save everyone, said Chancellor Velthar simply. To become the guardians not just of your own species but of existence itself. Through the bridge windows they could see the void plague pressing against the edge of their protective field, testing its boundaries. It couldn't advance any further, but it also wasn't retreating. It was waiting, as if it knew that eventually the humans would have to make a choice. Sir, said Yoon Mi-young, we're receiving a priority message from Earth. Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan reports that Chief Justice Torvek wants to speak with all human leaders immediately. He says the final test has begun. Captain Lee Dae-ho nodded. The standoff at Kepler had been resolved, but only because something much more serious had taken its place. The tribunal had changed. Where once it had been a crystal palace floating peacefully in space, it was now a fortress of light battling against advancing darkness. The void plague had reached even this ancient sanctuary, pressing against barriers that had stood for millions of years. Chief Justice Torvek met the human delegation in the same great chamber where they had first learned about the protection law. But now the chronicle pillar flickered with unstable energy, and cracks of darkness spread across the crystal walls. We are dying, said Torvek without introduction. The first civilization became the tribunal to hold back the void plague. But our power is finally exhausted. The galaxy has perhaps days before the plague breaks through our defenses entirely. Ambassador Choi Hee-rim looked around the chamber at the other judges. They were all fading, becoming transparent as their energy drained away. How can we help? By becoming what you were always meant to become, said Torvek. By evolving beyond physical form to become the new guardians of reality. Dr. Park So-jin had been studying her sensors since they arrived. The process would require humans to give up their physical bodies and merge with the cosmic infrastructure that maintains universal laws. Yes, said Torvek. Some of your people would have to sacrifice their humanity to save everyone else's existence. Captain Lee Dae-ho stepped forward. How many? We estimate that 1,000 human minds, properly prepared and willing to sacrifice themselves, could power the tribunal for another 1,000,000 years. The chamber fell silent. Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan was the first to speak. 1,000 volunteers to save the entire galaxy. It seems like a reasonable trade. Is it voluntary? Asked Commander Kim Tae-woo. Or will the protection law force people to do it? It must be voluntary, said Torvek. Unwilling guardians cannot maintain the cosmic balance. The choice must be made freely, with full knowledge of what it means. Dr. Park So-jin was analyzing the data that Torvek was sharing with them. The volunteers would retain their consciousness but lose all physical sensation. They would become pure thought existing to maintain the laws of physics across the galaxy. Forever? Asked Captain Lee Dae-ho. Until another species evolves to the point where they can take over the responsibility, said Torvek. The first civilization waited 6,000,000 years. Your people might wait longer. Ambassador Choi Hee-rim felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. What happens if we refuse? What if humanity doesn't want this responsibility? Then the void. Plague consumes everything, said Torvek simply. Reality collapses back into nothingness and the universe dies. And if we accept, then some humans become cosmic guardians, while the rest inherit a galaxy protected by their sacrifice. Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan was practical. How long do we have to decide? The tribunal's defenses will fail within 72 hours, said Torvek. After that, the void plague will spread across the galaxy at faster than light speed. Within a week, It will consume everything that exists. The human delegation gathered to discuss the decision. They moved to a smaller chamber where they could speak privately, though they could still see the darkness pressing against the tribunal's weakening barriers. "We can't ask people to give up their humanity," said Captain Lee Daeho. "It's not fair." "We can ask for volunteers," said Commander Kim Tae-woo. "Explain the situation and let people choose." 1,000 people isn't that many," said Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan. "Out of all humanity, there must be 1,000 people willing to sacrifice themselves to save everyone else." Dr. Park So-jin was still analyzing the data. "There's something else we should consider. The volunteers wouldn't really die. They'd become something larger than human. They'd have cosmic awareness, the ability to see and understand everything that happens in the galaxy." "Is that supposed to make it better?" asked Captain Lee Daeho. "I'm not sure," admitted Dr. Park So-jin. "But it's not really death. It's evolution." Ambassador Choi Hye-rim made the decision. "I'll return to Earth and explain the situation. We'll ask for volunteers, but I won't force anyone." "There might not be enough volunteers," said Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan. "Then we'll face that problem when we come to it." The trip back to Earth took 18 hours, even at maximum speed. During the journey, they could see the effects of the void plague spreading across the galaxy. Stars were going out, not burning out naturally but simply ceasing to exist. Entire star systems vanished as the plague advanced. But wherever humans were present, the plague slowed down. Human ships, human colonies, human trade routes all created zones of stability where reality remained solid. The galaxy was becoming a patchwork of normal space around human settlements and void zones everywhere else. "We're already becoming guardians," observed Dr. Park So-jin. "Every human is unconsciously helping to hold reality together." When they reached Earth, Ambassador Choi Hye-rim addressed the entire planet. She explained the situation simply and honestly. The galaxy was dying. Humanity could save it, but only if some people were willing to give up their physical existence to become cosmic guardians. The response surprised everyone. Within 6 hours, over 50,000 people had volunteered. Scientists who wanted to understand the universe on a cosmic scale, religious leaders who saw it as the ultimate service to creation, ordinary people who couldn't bear the thought of letting everyone else die. "We only need 1,000. Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan pointed out. "I know," said Ambassador Choi Hye-rim, "but I think that tells us something important about humanity." They selected the volunteers carefully. Some were chosen for their scientific knowledge, others for their wisdom, still others for their strength of will. Captain Lee Daeho volunteered, as did Dr. Park So-jin. Commander Kim Tae-woo wanted to volunteer too, but someone needed to stay behind to help organize the new galaxy. The volunteers were brought to the tribunal for the transformation process. Chief Justice Torvek explained what would happen. "You will retain your individual consciousness, but it will be expanded to cosmic scale. You will see and understand everything that happens in the galaxy. You will have the power to maintain the laws of physics, to prevent the void plague from returning, and to protect all life." "Will we still be human?" asked Captain Lee Daeho. "You will be more than human," said Torvek. "But you will remember what it was like to be human. That memory will guide you in making decisions that preserve life rather than just maintaining order." The transformation process was unlike anything anyone had imagined. The volunteers didn't die or disappear. Instead, they expanded. Their consciousness grew larger and larger until it filled the entire tribunal structure. They became part of the cosmic framework that held reality together. Dr. Park So-jin was among the first to complete the transformation. Her voice, when she spoke, came from everywhere at once. "It's beautiful," she said. "I can see everything. Every star, every planet, every living being. And I can see how it all connects, how every part depends on every other part." Captain Lee Daeho's transformation came next. "I understand now," he said. "The protection law wasn't just about keeping humans safe. It was about preparing us for this moment. Every time we helped someone, every time we chose cooperation over conflict, we were learning how to be guardians." One by one, all 1,000 volunteers completed their transformation. The old tribunal judges faded away peacefully. Their long duty finally ended. The new human judges took their place, bringing fresh energy and human compassion to the ancient role of cosmic guardians. The Void Plague, sensing the renewed strength of the tribunal, retreated back into the deep spaces between galaxies. It would sleep again for millions of years, waiting for the next cosmic cycle. Ambassador Choi Hai-Rim stood in the tribunal chamber, now filled with the presence of her transformed friends and colleagues. "Can you still hear us?" "We can hear you," said the collective voice of the new judges. "We can see you. We will always watch over you. Will you still be our friends?" "We will be more than friends," said Captain Lee Daeho's voice. "We will be your guardians, your protectors, and your guides. We will make sure that the galaxy remains a place where all species can grow and learn and become more than they were." The galaxy slowly began to heal. The void zones left by the plague were filled with new space, new possibilities. Trade routes reopened, and communication was re-established between distant worlds. But everything was different now. The new protection laws, maintained by human judges who remembered what it was like to be mortal, were more flexible and fair. Species that had been enemies for centuries found ways to make peace. Wars became rare, not because they were forbidden, but because the judges helped everyone find better solutions to their problems. Admiral Yoon Ji-hwan commanded the first exploration missions into the restored parts of the galaxy. Everywhere he went, he found species that were grateful to humanity for the sacrifice their people had made. Commander Kim Tae-woo helped establish the new galactic government, one based on cooperation rather than domination. The human judges provided guidance, but they didn't rule directly. They let each species develop in their own way, intervening only when necessary to prevent disaster. Years passed. The galaxy prospered under the protection of the human judges. New species were discovered and welcomed into the galactic community.